There's a pretty convenient spot that the clubs took, just saying, I want you to pay my rent, to pay my stuff for this weekend, and I will do my bar. So just profiting and outsourcing out all the responsibility. And now they're complaining that they can pay the rent and that they are cultural institutions. They're already not the cultural institution. They're just like a hollow silhouette of something. And the cultural institution is, I think, already like the collective that are able to ensemble people and to make a party, and they're not dependent on any fucking club that is like located in the center of the city. Hi you! Welcome to another reaction video on this channel. Today we're gonna react to Berlin Nightlife is Dying video. And yes, I got like a bit overwhelmed by this video and a bit angry, so I hope you will enjoy this video, because there is a lot of topics that are talked here about that are super important to me as somebody who is local from Berlin, born and raised here, and seen this development live with my own eyes. I have a lot to say about this topic, and I'm really interested how you like it, so let's dive straight into it.
This is Berlin, a city world-renowned for its nightlife, its beating heart of electronic music, and freedom. At the center lies the Ringbahn, a boundary encircling nearly every major nightclub at the core of the capital's party scene. Over 90% of Berlin's nightlife is concentrated in just 10 of the city's 96 neighborhoods, a cultural core unlike anywhere else in the world. That concentration shapes more than just the city's identity. It drives its economy. Before the pandemic, tourism related to the club scene generated around 1.5 billion euros in a single year for the city, more than twice the revenue of Germany's most famous football powerhouse Bayern Munich made in the same year. But beneath the surface, that core is crumbling.
Electronic clubs like Watergate and Renata announced they will close by the end of the year.
Last year, two of Berlin's best-known techno institutions, Watergate and Renata, announced they would be closing. And now this...
That's such a shame, to be honest. Watergate was is the first club where I encountered raving, or like where I dove into the scene. And it's pretty sad that it's closing, but you know, life is going on, and this whole topic is really interesting. We'll see where this video is or will be going to, but I have my own opinion on all this like closage of like old institutions like Watergate or Renata or even Schwutz, because as he already said, there is like this phenomenon that most of the clubs are in the city center, located in the city center, but this city center of Berlin doesn't used to be like the central part of town forever. It's just like a new construct, because if we take like different cities like London or Paris, there is the city center, and have been the city center for hundreds of years. And in Berlin, it's a bit different, because we got the split. You already know that there was East Germany and West Germany, and basically everything along the wall, which is nowadays Friedrichshain, Kreuzberg, Mitte, all the hip and fresh locations, also where the clubs are, used to be the death strip. People not living there, it used to be even ghettos. So like Kreuzberg, West Berlin, used to be a Turkish ghetto for immigrants people, and there wasn't no hip and cool people there drinking matcha lattes and stuff. It was like real tough hood. Still is today. If you go Cottbusser Tor, you still see the after effects of like this of the situation, basically. That it's still hard, still ghetto, still graffitis everywhere, junkies everywhere, but also like the hipsters and the cool people that want to rave and enjoy the clubs. And when the wall fell, what happened? All the cool people from the west and from the east just collectively got into the city center, which used to be the death strip and not so densely populated, and just took over buildings and did their clubs there. And that's why inherently in Berlin, in the city center, all the institutional clubs are placed. And now it is changing, because the city center is becoming a city center in the typical way of towns like, or cities like London, New York, or Paris. That's like my pre-handed information, and let's let's get back to the video.
city's oldest LGBT nightclub, Schwutz, has declared bankruptcy. Rising rents, relentless gentrification, and shifting demographics are forcing even the city's most iconic venues to close their doors. Like other major cities, Berlin is grappling with rapid population growth and aggressive real estate speculation, creating a shortage of affordable space and driving up the cost of living across the board.
But this problem is also kind of the curse of the popularity of Berlin. Imagine you're in the 90s, you live in Berlin, nobody cares about Berlin because it's just a ruin basically. And you develop the scene, the raving scene, which we are talking about here, and it's getting popular, more interesting, more EasyJet tourism, flyjet tourism, whatever. And now all these people trying to move to Berlin. And actually the people that are FOMOing and like find it so interesting here in Berlin are causing these developments, the rising rents and whatnot. If we could just separate ourselves and do the nationalist thing and say like no foreigners, we could preserve this kind of vibe forever, because like the rave itself is formed from kind of like an oppression or abandonment and anti-establishment movement. And now the establishment is moving in and wants to establish the techno scene. And techno anyway is already like a pop culture and yeah, it's a mainstream thing already and it's getting like developed. There is like no underground anymore, especially in Berlin.
The result is a nightlife culture under siege. A scene once celebrated worldwide as a symbol of freedom and self-expression now faces an existential crisis, a battle to survive in the very city that built its legend. To understand how Berlin got here, we need to rewind 30 years or so.
East German authorities have said, in essence, that the Berlin Wall doesn't mean anything anymore. The wall that the East Germans will now be breached by anybody who wants to leave. Occasionally they shout, Die Mauer muss weg, the wall must go. Thousands and thousands of West Germans come to make the point that the wall has suddenly become irrelevant.
The roots of today's crisis stretch all the way back to the fall of the Berlin Wall, when cheap rents and empty buildings first created the conditions for the city's legendary nightlife scene. The fall of the wall.
Cheap rents and empty buildings in the city center. Yeah, to add to this.
In 1989, didn't just reunite a city, it also planted the seeds of a modern problem: gentrification. Berlin was in an unusual financial bind. Decades of division had driven most of its industry to West Germany, leaving the East starving for money. Investors quickly cottoned on. Berlin soon became a magnet for international capital and powerful housing corporations. Compared to the other parts of Western Europe, property here was astonishingly cheap. Take the example of Deutsche Wohnen, a real estate company that snapped up 60,000 apartments for just 450 million euros. That's roughly 7,500 euros per property. 15 years later, the deal came full circle, with Berlin's government forced to buy back part of that same stock, about 14,000 apartments at an average of 163,000 euros each. That's a staggering return of more than 2,000%. Now, we're talking about nightclubs, not residential real estate, but the housing example shows how the city's once affordable property market became a goldmine for investors. However, these very forces would also help lay the foundations for the impending explosion in club culture. In the early 1990s, the city's eastern districts were dotted with empty factories, warehouses, and power plants. Vast, inexpensive, and largely isolated, they became ideal breeding grounds for an underground rave movement. Tresor opened up in 1991 inside the abandoned vaults of the Wertheim department store. Berghain took over a cavernous East German power plant, and Sisyphos transformed a derelict dog biscuit factory into a sprawling open-air playground. While most venues relied on short-term leases, a few clubs secured ownership early, protecting them from the rent hikes and redevelopment that would eventually suffocate others.
Who the hell filmed this? And why?
Development that would eventually suffocate others. 15 years ago, the owners of Berghain promised the premises from the Swedish energy company Vattenfall for 1.5 million euros, a bargain by today's standards. By owning its building, the club stands among the few in the city.
So the owner of Berghain bought this building for 1.5 million euros? Where the fuck did they get like 1.5 million euros, man? Crazy. Just like you're thinking about like everything so underground and people doing a DIY, and suddenly you hear that Berghain was bought from Vattenfall for 1.5 million euros. I mean, it's a bargain for the scale of this building and nowadays standards. I think this building is worth I don't know, double to triple digit millions, but still kind of interesting where how this deal became to be. Who was the investor and stuff? Really interesting.
Insulated from rising rents and the pressures of profit-driven
So need to write him in, or need to build him like a statue or something.
foreign investors. This independence enabled its parent company to report annual profits of more than 2 million euros, which may explain why they can be so particular about who gets in. Those without such protection weren't so fortunate, and over the years, one by one, Berlin's clubs have begun to vanish. Knack Club in WMF in 2010, Maria am Ostbahnhof in 2011, Delicious Donuts, Icon and Tape in 2012, Horst Kreuzberg in 2013, Cookies, Weekend, Magdalena and Picnic in 2014,
Weekend is still open, or is it a different weekend? Yeah.
Magnet Club and Stadtbad Wedding in 2015, Rosie's, Bassi Club and Bar Babetta in 2018, followed by Chalet, Sankt Georg and Rummelsbucht in 2019. Behind many of these closures runs a common thread: the rising influence of powerful real estate interests. And in Berlin, one name surfaces repeatedly when the conversation turns to gentrification and the disappearance of nightclubs: Giora Podowitz. In the 90s, Podowitz began to systematically purchase occupied buildings in Kreuzberg. Today, his empire has been tied to the closure of some of the most controversial cultural hotspots, including nightclubs Renata and the world-famous Watergate. Renata has been especially direct, publicly naming Podowitz's company as the reason for its demise. Watergate's explanation for ending its 22-year run was both more nuanced and concerning. Along with rising rent, wage, and energy costs, its management pointed to shifts in the relevance of Berlin club culture for young people.
That's also like an interesting point. There are several interesting points. So first of all, they're blaming this real estate tycoon of basically like kicking them out. It's it's actually like funny because if we think about it like that, these whole clubs started by taking over places that are empty and taking someone's not yet clear whose property and just ran with it like for 20 years, 30 years or whatever. And now they're basically complaining about getting kicked out of the people that are owning it and kind of relying or like I wouldn't say crying but demanding from the state or from somebody of help. So for me it's a big contradiction because for me like the rave scene started as something like this anti-establishment and super punk and we take over, we don't care about the consequences and we do our own thing, and now it's becoming like more like, oh no, we can't do our thing anymore without any consequences, and we are not, we're just not ready to take to take or see the consequences, which is kind of losing the essence of me of this like anti-establishment movement, of this punk movement, of this like fuck it, we do it on our own, that's our freedom of expression thingy. It's more like oh, I need government funds now to run and stuff. Where is the energy of creation, or not just the energy of maintaining? Because maintaining is easy, and that's why there's also a decline, I think, in all these clubs and visitors and stuff. Because like now the clubs, what basically the clubs now, it's like getting like a nitty gritty thing why they're closing, what the clubs are really doing. Okay, so previously clubs been places where you say, okay, I go to Watergate, I go to this place or another because I know the line was gonna be sick. It's gonna be a nice fat party. Nowadays, since COVID, or I don't know, like the involvement of the last few years, is, oh no, I just go to a certain party. Let's say, I don't know, Lunchbox Candy, BCCO, or whatever there is. I don't know, all these popular parties or multi-sex or whatever, and you go to certain parties, and these parties are hopping from club to club, and the club owners think, oh, okay, I just need to invite the right parties there instead of curating their own cultural space. So they kind of opt out or sourced out this whole responsibility of doing a good party to the collectives, and now they are complaining that they can't pay their rent and just want to say, no, I'm a cultural institution. But what did they do to do the cultural institution the last few years instead of just opting out the whole responsibility to a collective? And we were not even speaking about the deals that the clubs are doing. The deal of the club, I will tell you this. What is the deal of the club in Berlin? You pay the rent. You pay the rent. You buying the space. Let's say for some X, let's say 10K, okay? Or whatever, some 10K, and they say, okay, so you you renting it for this amount of money. You need to buy my stuff, so security, door, and whatever. I will do my bar. I will just sell drinks in my pocket, and you get the ticket sales. So promoter, your risk is just like if you are buying or selling enough tickets. So you have the responsibility to bring just more people. And what you're doing, you're thinking, okay, I need popular DJs. Okay, so let's go to agencies, and the agencies are like, okay, you want a popular DJ, you get a fee of like an astronomical fee. That's what it is. And then as a promoter, you're paying this, and then you hopefully get enough people to break even, or you go bankrupt or whatever, or everything fits and everything is cool. But if you're a promoter that can book successfully people and get people successfully there, like a huge crowd, you're already not relying on the club. You don't give a fuck about you're gonna do the party in Watergate, or you're gonna do this party in Katablau, Ritterbutzke, whatever the clubs names are that are happening here in Berlin. So there's a pretty convenient spot that the clubs took, just saying, I want you to pay my rent, to pay my stuff for this weekend, and I will do my bar. So just profiting of this like capitalist capitalist system, and sourcing out all the responsibility. And now they're complaining that they can pay the rent and that they are cultural institutions. They're already not the cultural institution. They're just like a hollow silhouette of something. And the cultural institution is, I think, already like the collective that are able to collect people or to ensemble people and to make a party. And they're not dependent on any fucking club that is like located in the center of the city. Because if Conceptual or BCCO is gonna do a fucking party in Spandau or wherever the fuck they're gonna do it, in fucking Marzahn, people will come there. And they don't give a fuck if it's in the city ring or whatever. Oh, sorry for this rant, but let's just continue.
We had a weekend which had 3 sold out shows, and then the news came like there's this pandemic and like everything's gonna be forbidden and everything.
It seems that during the pandemic of 2020, habits shifted. People filled their nights with other pursuits, and music itself shifted into new spaces. Streaming and digital platforms became the main stage, reshaping not just how music was consumed, but how entire communities around it formed. Clubbing has always been generational. Most people live that life for 3 or 4 years before studies, work, or new responsibilities pull them away, leaving room for the next wave. But with venues closed for 2.5 years, that cycle was broken. A whole generation never stepped onto the dance floor, and the gap they left behind is one the scene is still struggling to recover from.
That's also like a thing, I think that's pretty true with the gap, but I'm really not sure how you can like say that a whole generation was not able to go to clubs and parties if the lockdown was like 2 years. I'm not sure what's the definition of a generation, but I think a generation spans like over 10 or to 15 years, I think maybe. And 2 years of not partying formed a generation, a whole generation. Sounds for me like big gap, but certainly there is a gap, and there is also like a change in in the mood of the ravers after this corona lockdowns, but I think it's just a general mood shift in the whole society, because after COVID, the life in general doesn't feel the same. Because imagine how abundant our society was pre-COVID. We've been like so wealthy, and we had not so many conflicts and open taps in our society, so we could rave forever and don't think about anything. Since COVID began, we began like to have a financial crisis. There are like big wars already happening in Europe. There is conflicts happening around the world. Recession. We don't know if World War III starts like in just a second. So maybe it's not about the generation that passed like these 2 years of raving, but in general, like everybody is just like, I think, went loco after this whole pandemic stuff.
But perhaps the most telling sign of change isn't just which clubs survive, it's how long the nights last. A study by the FT found that the share of nights running past 3 a.m. has fallen in 12 of 15 major cities since 2014. And this is perhaps the biggest threat of all, a lack of appetite for club culture. Today's younger clubbers simply aren't going out for the same marathon sessions that defined Berlin's reputation. Instead of disappearing into a club for 12 or even 24 hours, many prefer shorter nights, or they save their energy for the occasional festival. The culture of staying out.
This is also a cultural shift that we can talk more about it. If you're really interested in it, please write in the comments, because this is like a topic that I can elaborate for hours, and I really would like to do a video about it. Why people are not raving as they did like years before with this, just as he mentioned. Just as he mentioned, like the 24, 12-hour cycles, more like 2 hours. There is a huge shift in our culture that happened from a disciplinary culture to a performance culture, and that's why, in short form, that's why the culture of raving changed from endless nights to, oh, tomorrow I have to do my Pilates or my Beat 81 techno cycling course, you know. But if you're really interested, please write it in the comments. I would really love to do a video about it.
Out until sunrise, once the heartbeat of the city's nightlife is fading with each new generation. Whether Berlin chooses to protect what it made special, the authenticity, the raw creativity, the sense of community, will determine if the city continues to stand as the global capital of club culture, or if it becomes just another metropolis that lost its edge to gentrification. The next chapter isn't written yet, but if Berlin wants to preserve the very heartbeat that gave it identity, action will be needed to ensure the night can go on.
Yeah, and I think the action that needs to be done has to happen from within the scene and not from government or anybody else. Because we are, or as I see the techno scene, is the revolutionary army. Viva la revolution, as Da Vinci said in his newest movie. We are the resistance and not the establishment. But let's see some comments. I think there are some good comments. Bifdiuju, right? This is caused by inflation. I live in Berlin. Things are only getting more and more expensive. People do not go to club nights anymore because it does not fit on the pockets. This, I don't know, because you know what inflation means? Inflation means is the devaluation of money. So if the money is really devaluated, this also means that you kind of earn more. And if you earn more, like maybe this relative level stays the same. I understand that the club ticket is not costing 10 euros anymore or 15 euros anymore. It costs 25. But back in the days when I started, like in 2016, 2017, for me, 15 euros was also a lot. And going to two clubs paying 30 euros or 45 euros if I go to three clubs was a lot. But back then, we just didn't give a fuck about it, because we just wanted to live, to flee a bit from our regular life as a hard work 24/7 working hard student who just like grinding out his psyche. Anyway, anyone who thought the capital of Europe, most populated nations and largest economy was going to stay frozen in the ember of the 90s was living in a fool's paradise. Berlin is still a long way of being St. London, but that's where it's headed. Yeah, perfectly true. As I said, if you want to preserve the culture as it was described in this video, of like endless freedom in the city center are all the clubs, you have to say, okay, everybody who is an expat, a foreigner, an immigrant can join Berlin. Especially, we need to write in a form. Are you here for raving? Then abgelehnt. No, you got to go to your home. Ah, you're here for working? Passed. Or you're just here for chilling? All good. But if you want to go techno, no, we don't need you here, especially not in the city center. If you want to, if you want to come for techno, you need to live in Marzahn now, or like in the outer circle of Berlin. Maybe maybe in Brandenburg. Yeah, that's the crazy truth. If you want to preserve stuff, if you if you want to preserve it, that means that you need to freeze it in time. And if you want to really freeze something in time, do you really want the stagnation? Do you really want things to stay the same? That's an interesting question. There are also a lot fewer young people in Germany now than there was in the 90s. Today, the biggest demographic is within the 50s age bracket. Also, back in the days, the 90s, rave scene was a youth culture, a pure youth culture, where the young people that are freshly reunion through the wall or through the fall of the wall met together and raved together and got friends together. Now these people are also related to the techno scene. We know them, Dr. Motte and other people that we are like encounter if we go to club spaces or whatever, club owners. Usually they're already like in this club owners OG kind of position, but they're already old and they're still relating to the scene. And is it a youth culture? Is it just like a regular culture? And for sure, it's more older people now than younger people because the demographics is, as he said, like we are an aging nation in Germany, and there is no doubt that there are less younger people, and the younger people want different stuff, and there's already like this gap of understanding. What are you here for? Are you here for music and dancing, or are you here to film a TikTok and to perform your social life and stuff, or being dysfunctional or whatever? I see the need to leave Vilnius to go to Berlin and put my mind and skill to help Berlin to fight this problem. I believe it's time to unite and to put all the energy into finding solutions, building communities, and get new circle of club generation back to no mobiles, community first roots. Yes, but as I said, anybody who comes here is gentrifying the city and causing the problem. What he said of raising rents or whatever. I'm not against raising rents because I think Berlin is still relatively cheap compared to real metropolises as London, New York, or whatever, Shanghai, Tokyo, whatnot. And for you to thinking that you coming from Vilnius, Vilnius is Lithuania. I'm not sure what's the English name of the word, Lithuania or Letland. Litva or Letland, anyway. So you coming here and to build your own community, that's just like a foolish approach because there is already a community that needs to be reconsolidized. And coming from outside, you can't be just like, hello, I'm today in your community. This is an aging process that you get to cycle through to build a community. You can't just like pop out and say, "Hello, I'm Captain Jack. I'm doing community now." That's not how it works. All these communities that are built, that build these clubs, uh, was are been or have been an evolvement over time. People get to know each other to say, okay, let's run this club, let's do this here and this and this and this, friendships and whatever, and just pop out and saying, hello, I'm here to do community. This is nothing that we need here. We need more of our pathos of this. We do it ourselves, and we don't give a shit about the establishment, the politics, whatever. We are the resistance. This is, in my opinion, in my humble opinion, what the rave scenes actually needs right now, and not being whiny. Who gives what? Please, can we get a fund to stay in the city center? No, this shit we don't need. We need more people that say, "Fuck it, we do this illegal rave, and if the police comes, they will come." What are they gonna do? Take our sound system? Take the sound system. We stole it anyway, stuff like that. Something funny, something edgy, and not like such polished and for everybody consumable product. Wow. We went deep into this topic. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I could like show you like a bit of more of the perspective of the this whole inner Berlin politics around the nightlife and techno scene. It's not as dark and grim as it's always portrayed in my eyes. I know a lot of people, or the consensus is that nightlife is dying in Berlin, but as I said, I have a really interesting idea of a video where I can explain to you why this is dying out. The main words are disciplinary society and performance society. And if you're interested in these videos or in this concept that I can talk for hours about, write it in the comments. I will do a video about it, why techno is changing. Probably will call it like Overthinking Techno or something. But yes, if you're interested, write it in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the reaction video and see you in the next video.